Yeah, g'day to everybody. Hello, folks. Been a while since I chatted to you one-on-one. Your old friend, Chetty Cotta, sitting in the sun. One of my favourite days of the year, the AFL Grand Final. And often was the time I'd stay up most of the night. They used to have a football marathon on the night before the grand final, all the old games from the 60s and 70s. I remembered all the old names. That was when it was the VFL, Victorian Football League. And I'd make hot dogs and drink beer and always made a platter. So I've got a platter made for today. Brian's off working, but I'll be here. So I've got my cheeses, my dips, my olives. Swing around a bit, and should be a good day. Yeah, in those days I used to live in share houses with some guys, you know, Chris, Doug, Steve. We had amazing times. Chris made this barbecue out the back of the rental house, nearly burnt the house down. But all the friends had come over and we'd have a grand final barbecue. I'd be out marinating meats, making kebabs and hamburgers and sautés and yeah, amazing stuff. If we saw much of the game, it would be unusual because I'd be so busy cooking stuff and going and grabbing beers and whatever. Anyway, today's episode has nothing to do with the Boer War, which has become a bit of a theme. I've found that the Boer War episodes tend to get the most interest. Especially the Breaker Morant series, that got a lot of views. The monuments lately haven't been getting much at all, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm wanting to document as many of them as the memorials as possible. And in fact, the memorial website came down recently. I was horrified when I went to log in to check some things, and the site was suspended. So I don't know whether they didn't have any money, but it's up online again now. And I rely on that Australian Monuments website to find my Boer War monuments. So, as I said, today's episode has nothing to do with the Boer War. It's a true crime episode. I mean, who doesn't love true crime? I think it's why we slow down at car accidents for a look. I used to listen to podcasts when I was driving, and one of them was the Australian True Crime podcast. And they were interviewing this author who had put out a book called The Devil's Grip. And I liked the idea of the story or the events. When I say like, I related. It concerns a sheep farming or sheep breeding family called the Wettenhalls that lived just outside Geelong in these beautiful hills that surround Geelong on the inland, and they were blue blood pedigree breeders of these merino. But they the fella Darcy, who's the central character, he had a secret. The term "the devil's grip" refers to a breeding genetic mishap in some sheep or merinos that it's like a fold of skin at the back of their neck, as I remember, that they call the devil's grip. It means that they're not very particularly good for breeding. They're not good for anything really, and that was how Darcy viewed his aberration. He was secretly gay, and a chain of events led to him and his family being killed by a gunman. Though I'm not going to go too much into it, but I related because my sexuality was always a big secret to me, and I was terrified someone would find out. And it was when I was drinking and drugging, I would take chances and bring dangerous people home, which is essentially what Darcy did. But so this is a true crime episode. There will be some bad language, some homophobic type terms used, I suppose, as I remember. I mean, I did it a while ago. I can't really remember what I said, but I think I got a bit excited and a bit dramatic in the telling of the story, so forgive me. As far as the Boer War goes, I am planning in about 8 days to hit the road and to head up north through New South Wales. I've got a little map where I've highlighted all the Boer War monuments in New South Wales. There's heaps of them. But my destination, I want to go to Tenterfield, and on the way I want to stop at Gunnedah. Both of those places have connections to Breaker Morant, to Harry the Breaker, and my partner goes away in his caravan, and I have to stay to look after the animals. So when he goes away, he's always very keen when he gets back to make sure that I get to go away too. So yeah, I'm going on a road trip. I don't know how long it'll be. It might be a week, it might be 10 days or something like that. I don't know how long it'll take me to get to Tenterfield, and I've got a swag that I bought second hand. I haven't tried that out yet. I've got an inflatable mattress. And of course, being grand final day today, I'm reminded that it was 2 years ago that I had booked to go to South Africa. I was waiting for the grand final. It was Collingwood and Brisbane on that day. Brian's a Collingwood supporter. So I had booked to fly out of Melbourne a few days after the grand final. And that's coming up for 2 years ago. It's incredible how quickly that's gone. If you wanted to explore all the old stuff from my trip, I did a video every day I was in South Africa. I was there for 2 months, seeing some fantastic Zulu Boer War stuff. And I've been thinking, will I ever get back there again? The truth is, I don't know. I've started buying lottery tickets. That's how desperate I am for money to afford to go back. I do have enough that I could probably go back, but that money that I do have put away is going to have to last for, you know, when I get older. Older than I am now, which is a thought I never contemplated. I really didn't think I'd get to this age with the lifestyle that I led and the risks I took. But anyway, yeah, Brian is very conscious of budgeting and what we will need for a life as we get older and we get onto pensions and all that sort of thing. So it would be foolhardy of me to just go and spend that money and go on another trip to South Africa to find more Boer War stuff. So that's where the lotto, the Powerball ticket comes in. If it's meant to be, it will meant to be. I still keep in touch with all those tour guides over there. They send me updates and pictures of stuff they're finding. So no doubt I could find more to visit and more to see. But I did everything I wanted to do on that trip 2 years ago, so I think if I was to go back, I think I'd be scratching the surface a bit. I don't know what it wouldn't be as good as what I did 2 years ago. But on another note, I had ordered these. My mate in South Africa, the guy I went to school with, Brian, different Brian, I organised him to buy these things off there's a website, there's a Facebook group called Anglo-Boer War, and this guy was selling these French, they call it the Le Petit Journal. They're newspapers that were printed in 1899 in Paris. They're French. You got these beautiful watercolour paintings of the Boer War. When we went to Corriedale Lodge, Brian and I, near Rustenburg, they had them all mounted on a wall. They're glorious. So there's a guy was selling a couple of these. I've always had my eye on them. He's selling a couple of them. There's Paul Kruger, there's the British Lion, and the Boer Bull. So yeah, I've asked Brian to pick them up for me and mail them out. So if that happens, I'll be able to show you guys. All right, that's enough nattling. Let's get on to the true crime, the Devil's Grip and the murder of the Wettenhalls. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so this is a different sort of episode. I don't normally do cemeteries, but we will be for some of the Boer War cemeteries, the graves of the Carbineers, but they're not here today. Anything to do with the Bushveld Carbineers or the Boer War. I'm here because of a murder that took place about 30 years ago. Specifically, I'm here because of this book. Right? So, just to give you an idea of the I haven't read the book in years, and I'm not going to go through it all again. It's a pretty sad story. But it involves, the reason it's called the Devil's Grip, it involves sheep and breeding, particularly merino sheep. Yeah, I need to make a correction there. He wasn't breeding merinos, although I wasn't far off. He was breeding Corriedale sheep, which are they're a merino mixed with a let me have a look here, a Lincoln long wool. They were developed in New Zealand, so they're both wool and mutton meat sheep. So yeah, got that wrong, Darcy. You were breeding Corriedale sheep. It involves a guy called Darcy Wettingham, I think his name is. Let me have a look. Wettenhalls, yeah, Darcy Wettenhalls, written by one of his friends. The Devil's Grip is a birth defect in some rams, which means they're not worth very much money. Darcy was a very well educated breeder of sheep. He was a pioneer in breeding these things. He won many awards for breeding sheep. So I've been up in the country about 10 years. We bought some sheep, we bought merinos, so I related to the story a bit. But Darcy had a secret. Darcy was gay at a time that was something, in his words, he said something along the lines of, you're never a poofter until you say you are. And of course all this came out after his death. But we'll see if we can find his grave, and then I'll tell you a bit more. I found on the Finder grave, you can see that hall in the background of his headstone. They're all black granite here. So I'll tell you a bit more. There's a farm not far from here. We're going to go out and have a look at. That's where he lost his life. Him and his son and his, I think it was his grandmother. They were all killed at the same time. Gunned down. It was a violent death. Not really sure about his parents. His parents seem to have handed him or given him to the grandparents to bring up, and I think they were quite strict on him. And so he grew up on this farm. We're in the Corriedale hills outside of Geelong, and he grew up on a property. He worked hard. They sort of used him as, as a go-to, because he didn't, as I said, I don't know what happened to his parents, but the grandparents, I think, used him for the hard work. And he grew up in an era where being gay was kind of not in his life plans, I think. But you can't help who you are, can you? Today would have been a bit different, but especially being in a rural sort of farming sheep community. He went over to, I think it was Argentina. He won some awards in Argentina for his sheep. The book is written by one of his friends that was also a sort of country guy that bred sheep and knew about sheep, but no one knew as much about him as Darcy. He really knew his sheep. I might just pause until I find it. I'll look at the photo again because it's getting a bit hard. Okay, so I found him. This is his son, Guy. Killed on the same night as his dad he rushed into the kitchen to try and help and lost his life. And this is Darcy. Hey Darcy, you don't know me. I read about you in a book, and I don't know where his grandmother is. I don't know where his grandmother is, but certainly him and his son. He had custody of his son. He was a hard guy. You can relax now, Darcy. Times have changed a lot. Geez, the gays even get married now. Yeah, unbelievable, eh? I think Darcy was a drinker. Hope you don't mind me saying that. I'm a recovered alcoholic myself. If I look a bit weird, I'm transgendered. I know. You can say it out. You can say it out loud now. Amazing, eh? So yeah, I don't know where his grandmother is buried, probably alongside her husband, but certainly the son and the father are there, both 1992. Yeah, you know, living with one's demons. As I said, he was a bit of a drinker, and when you got needs, especially when you're drinking and your sort of hormones are raging and you've got this big secret that you're hiding. I know about secrets. I sure do. I know about secrets. And shame, guilt, remorse, horror. You know, might see if I can sit down. And I don't know if you've seen this, Darcy. I wrote a book about you. Which is more than I'll ever get. Yeah. Maybe I can sit on Pauline Sharp's grave and I won't get yelled at. There's no one here. Beautiful hills of the Moorabool Hills or something. But I really relate to Darcy. So he used to get a lot of help come into the farm, you know. Sheep farm, you need a lot of help. Shearing and docking and marking, and we got a few merinos, Darcy. Not as many as you had. Ours are pretty ratty now. And he started going down to Melbourne to the Salvation Army, you know, the men's shelters where guys were down on their luck, boozers, druggies, and he started helping out. He started bringing them up to the farm, giving them a bit of work, but he was hard on them, you know. He didn't mind telling them what he thought of them, tearing them to shreds if they you know, weren't working to his standards. He was a hard guy. Not all that tall, short sort of guy. An old-fashioned guy. And he picked the wrong one. He brought this guy up that was trouble, you know, from the start. Now, whether he was hitting on these guys is neither here nor there. Probably a bit pissed. If he saw an opportunity, maybe he might hit on them. The guy that wrote the book says that him and Darcy had they were both, well, the guy that wrote the book was married. Darcy was married as well, but he separated from his wife, and as I said, he got custody of Guy. He bought her out. He played hard, and he got custody of his son. His son was a guy, was an up and get him too in the Geelong districts, you know, eligible sort of stock for any ladies. You know, he was traditional, wore the the canvas pants, what are they called, the R.M. Williams boots, the Akubra hat, and the work pants, and you know, he would have been, they had a 21st for him out at the Mirabel farm. Can't remember what it's called, doesn't matter, we're going to try and go out there. But anyway, on the night in question, yeah, he'd brought this guy up who was trouble. Once again, I relate because I brought dangerous people home when I was drunk and stoned, not thinking clear. I brought dangerous people into my environment. I let down my guard and let him in. That's what Darcy did. He let this lunatic in that had a girlfriend off and on. And there must have been something going on because Darcy was lending him his car. Darcy had a nice car, and this loser was taking the car and driving around and fucking taking drugs, getting pissed with his mates and having fights with the girlfriend. And on the night that these two lost their lives, as well as the grandmother, they were in bed. It was late at night. They heard Darcy's car pull up. Darcy had been waiting for his car to be returned. He was in a bad mood anyway. And I heard the car pull up. It was left idling in the driveway of the farm. And Darcy went out and had words with this guy. Probably called him a low-life piece of shit. You know, you're fucking losing. You loser. You're a drug-fucked piece of fucking shit. Words to that effect. Well, was the wrong person to say that to, in the wrong mood, the wrong frame of mind, because the guy had worked on the farm. He knew where they kept the guns. So he went out to the outhouse where he knew guns were with ammunition. He grabbed a shotgun and cartridges and loaded it up and went marching up to the steps of the farmhouse where Darcy was standing in the kitchen. And he blew Darcy away. Well, the son heard that. He was in his room and he tried to be smart. He ran out of the back door of the farmhouse and he came in behind the guy. He ran around the side of the house and he came in behind the guy, and the door slammed as Guy was coming in, and this lunatic swung around and opened fire, and he blew Guy right back out onto the porch. Took a fair portion of his head off. He might have opened fire on them when they were dead out of in real anger, but the last thing was he went into the bedroom of the old woman. She must have been quaking in fear. She'd heard the shots of the blast of shotguns in the house, and he shot her in her room. I don't know how he got away, because I think they found the car was still idling the next day in the driveway. Maybe he had friends came picked him up or something. But he didn't last long. You know, he stole a bit of money from them, and you know, partied for a few weeks in a motel till he was caught. He took his own life in jail. All right, there you go. That's your book, Darcy. So yeah, his killer didn't last very long. Didn't live long beyond taking Darcy and, you know, wiping out the family, basically. So there was one final twist to Darcy's life. Finally, the secret came out, I suppose, although, yeah, finally the secret came out. So when they were doing the autopsy on Darcy, it was found that he had advanced AIDS. He probably would have, he wouldn't have lived, you know, too long. The effects of the AIDS would have started being obvious. And being 1992, they had trouble finding pallbearers, right? Because people were worried that carrying the coffin of someone with AIDS might give you AIDS. Isn't that mad, eh? Anyway, this is where they rest. The Wettenhalls. Now, the Wettenhalls are quite an influential family around Geelong. In fact, as I was coming in, I saw a trucking company called Wettenhalls. So maybe they're related. So we'll see if we can go out to the farm And it's very built up here, so I'm surprised that there could be a farm around here. But we'll see what happens. So I came out to, it's Devon Road, Sarris. Somewhere along here is the farm Stanbury. Don't know how far, I mean, look how green it is in that photo. Looks like they've had drought here as well, but beautiful sheep country. The rolling hills of Burrabul. We'll see if, I don't know how long this road goes for, but we'll see if we can find Stanbury, the family home of the Wettenhalls. Well, I'm on Devon Road in Sarris, they call it, which is real sheep country. And the properties aren't marked. You either know where they are or you don't. But it's probably still a high functioning merino stud. You can see the rolling hills of Burrabul, or Murrabul Hills it's called. And some drug-fucked lunatic driving Darcy's car, which was a nice new Holden. I don't know why he lent it to him. Well, maybe I do. The guy had a fight with his girlfriend. He's probably come boring along here. And he's got the shits on. He's probably, I think he was drinking and drugging in a motel. And he's got a grudge to settle. He's sick of being talked down to by this little and excuse the term, I'm allowed to use it, I'm one of them, but he's sick of being talked down to by this little guy who's been hitting on him as well, and he's going to teach him a lesson. He's going to tell Darcy what he thinks of him and tell him to shove his job up his ass, and he's going to fuck off, you know. He might even be asking Darcy for a bit of money. You know, can you lend me a few so I can, you know, go back to Melbourne, take my girlfriend with me. And Darcy's furious because it's late at night. He hears a car pulling up. He hears the music pumping. Like, where the fuck have you been with my car? What are you doing turning up here in the night? You're supposed to have dropped the car off, you know, hours ago. Darcy lays into him. You drug-fucked idiot. You never make anything of yourself. Tried to give you a hand, tried to give you a start in life. Tried to get you out of the Salvation Army men's home. This is how you repay me, you drug-fucked idiot. And the fingers pushing backwards and forwards, poking in each other's chest. They're strutting like roosters. Alright, until this guy says, well, fuck you, mate. And he stomps off up the driveway, and Darcy's probably gone inside to, you know, maybe put his dressing gown on, or he doesn't know what's going to go on. He certainly couldn't have thought or imagined what was going to go down in the next few minutes. And this guy's broken into the outhouse where the armoury is, and he's come back to finish it once and for all, and he does. A few more words are given, but not very many. He stomps up the couple of steps onto the veranda of Stanbury. I think it's called Stanbury, the merino stud. He says, fuck you, mate. Bang! Sound of a shotgun going off in a farmhouse would be fucking loud. Bang! Gives him another, just to be sure. And yeah, guy goes, what the fuck? He's in his room. He Comes flying out. He's probably in his pyjamas. Thinks he can help his dad. So flies around. Comes up the steps that the lunatic has just entered a few moments ago. The kitchen would be full of gun smoke, smell of carbide or whatever it's called from a shotgun. The door on the old fly screen door on the hinges would have given it away. The guy swung around when he's heard the door open, and he's given Guy one with such force that it's shoved him out the door and back onto the porch. His guy's laying there gasping. He's a young guy, born 68, died in 92. He's gasping for air, and this guy's walked up and finished him off with another shot, like you'd do to a wounded roo, I suppose. Yeah, the guy was arrested not long after, sent to Pentridge, awaiting trial, and hung himself. Well, usual story of abuse, and his sister had been murdered by his father some years earlier. A life of childhood abuse, substance abuse, broken home, father alcoholic probably, and found himself at the Salvation Men's Home, and Darcy made a critical error. As I said, I brought home guys that were dangerous myself. It can happen to anyone, if you're not thinking clear. Anyway, that's the story of the murder of Darcy Wettenhall and his son Guy, and his grandmother. I don't have her name, but I'll put it up. So I'll go back to Geelong now and get into my motel, start thinking about dinner. Yeah, look, even if I'd have found Stansbury along this road, these farms, you drive well into the property. You might see the front gates, but that's not where the guy parked the car. The guy drove into the front gates and parked it. In the police photos, you can see he's parked against some bollards, which I'd say would be in the property near the farmhouse. So, I wouldn't have been able to get very close anyway. All right. Interesting story, eh? Well, I found it. Didn't think I would, but you never know, eh? Got to be quick because farmers are very suspicious of people looking around their properties. But yeah, this is it. There's Stanbury, home of the Wettenhalls. So the guy would have opened this gate and then driven into the property. Yeah, award-winning merino sheep stud, the home of the Wettenhalls.